We'll start over. Call the meeting to order at 5:10 PM. Let the record show Alder Johnson, Alder Galvin, Alder Hutchison are present. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion by
Second.
Galvin, a second by Johnson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion by Galvin, a second by Hutchison. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item E, regular business, number 1, for consideration with possible action on the resolution adopting the 2023 fee schedule. Any questions by alders or staff? Any commentary?
I have none.
The only question I have is for the fees for towers. It seems like it's a new fee. I just want to make sure it's in line with what's been done in other cities. And that's it. That's the only question I've got.
I'm gonna,
Yes. Cell towers, are you talking about?
Yeah, the cell towers.
Yes, when we reviewed that with other cities and we were able to charge, we were pretty low on that. So we compared that with other municipalities and that is an appropriate fee.
Okay, thanks. That's it.
Cheryl, are you sitting in for staff on this one?
I am.
Okay, it's a question I had, and if you could just talk us through the need. The one that kind of caught my attention was when someone needs to apply for a variance. But right now, but that seemed to be a substantive price hike for a service that I think is oftentimes requested by members of the public and not always granted. So, one of the things that just always makes me, a little skittish is, of course, these are laws that we pass that say people can't do certain things with their property. And then we charge them a fee to ask for permission to do something on their property. And then we don't always guarantee that they'll be able to do something with their property. So it just makes me a little hesitant to be requesting that kind of a price hike. Could you talk us through that?
We just really looked at other communities and what other communities were charging. We didn't want to be too high or too low. So we kind of wanted to stay in the middle. So the increase, it looks like it's from 75 for residential to the 125. So that was a $50 increase. We felt like that was reasonable for what goes into the Board of Appeals and the work that needs to be done by staff. But
So there are
again,
two-
these are recommendations. So if you think that's high,
Yeah, there are 2 line items there that say
Mhm.
Board of Appeals initiation residential. What is the difference between the 2?
I see that the Board of Appeals is 75 residential and 150 all other. So residential compared to like a commercial.
Okay, so on the
Okay.
fee schedule, it says residential, and I think that's what had me thrown off. So I assume that means anything else that's not residential.
Correct. That's what I would think, right? I'm looking at the Plan Commission just approved these last night, so I'm looking at the notes from that meeting.
Alder Johnson, that does look like there might be a typo in the information that we shared with you. I will go back to Logan Wood or the attorney's office and see if they can verify that. It does look like, it looks exactly the same on the sheet. I think it should say, like you said, commercial or other. And we'll verify that if that is worded incorrectly on the resolution.
Okay. I guess I may pull this one at council. I can get on board with the rest of these right now. That's the one that just kind of drew my attention again, recognizing that you think about services that are oftentimes used, particularly in our lower income neighborhoods that have smaller lots. And it just, anytime there's a cost burden being placed on people, because I don't have the data that demonstrates that it's, the lower income neighborhoods that have a higher volume of requests, but my gut and my hunch tells me that. And so I want to make sure we're not creating barriers that are unnecessary.
Information for the council meeting.
All right,
Alder.
thank you. Any other questions? Not, we'll entertain a motion
Move to approve.
by Alder Hutchison, second by Galvin. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Proposed amendment 2 for consideration with possible action to obligate funding for 2 refuse vehicles for 2024 and 2 refuse vehicles for 2025 at a total cost of approximately $708,000 each year. Director Grenier.
Thanks, Alder Johnson. As we've identified in the memo that we've provided, I don't think this is a great surprise to anybody, especially in light of the conversation that was had at the last meeting relative to fire vehicles. We are finding similar situations where lead times on heavy trucks, especially garbage trucks, have anywhere from 18 to 24-month leads right now. The reason for that is primarily due to the fact that the manufacturers of the engines, that's the limiting quantity right now in heavy trucks, is the engines that go in there. Only a certain number of engines are being manufactured. Those engines are going off to chassis manufacturers to build the truck. When you've got a limited number of engines, you have a limited number of trucks that are available, and this is across the entire United States. Those trucks are used for everything from freight delivery to plow trucks to garbage trucks. So the way that we purchase garbage trucks, you purchase essentially a cab, a motor, and a frame. So you get a bare truck, no body on it. Then we go to a second source vendor who puts the body on, the garbage truck body itself. So again, you could use those trucks for a variety of different applications. Typically 18 months out from when the vehicle is due to be delivered to you, people are putting in what are considered a build slot. So trucks that are available in the year, and manufacturers, chassis manufacturers across the United States are putting their names on. You're essentially reserving that truck months before it's ever being built. So what we're looking to do is trying to secure build slots. As we identified, we've got vehicles that we got a plow truck, for instance, from 2021 that was ordered that we still haven't taken delivery of. Our 2022 garbage trucks that were approved as part of this year's program, we're not going to receive until probably March of 2023, which continues to put us behind the more we keep this, but get our garbage trucks funded. And after 8 years of frontline service, these things are in bad shape. They need to be replaced. So what we're looking to do is very similar approach to what fire department did. We're asking, and we understand what this does. I mean, we get it. We're asking the council to commit future councils to, well over worth of future funding, which is going to carve into the total amount of borrowing that we can do. But in order for us to do that, then it gives us the opportunity to put our names on those to have a reasonable chance of getting those vehicles when we actually need them.
Director Grenier. Yeah, and I don't envy the position you're in, nor the chief. Maybe more broadly speaking, Director Ellenbecker, is this something where this is going to kind of trigger every department now to be coming to us with quests, and then there's sort of the shotgun approach, which is going to really hamper our ability to understand what's happening with future bonding requests. Is there a coordinated effort to figure out how we're addressing all of these individual requests?
Certainly it could, stem a few more requests. I do by looking at the CIP, these are some of the largest pieces of equipment. So I think those are the biggest dollar amounts. We certainly will be keeping track and finance of any of these, anything that the council has approved for future funding sources, if that's what you're asking. I'm not sure right now. But certainly we're going to be tracking, logging. Again, I think these are some of your largest pieces of equipment that there is a request for.
Yeah, I think maybe my bigger request is that the administration really gets their arms wrapped around what other additional requests might be coming like this to obligate future funds, and prioritizing those requests, because the last thing I want to do is end up in a position a year or two or three from now and in roads because we obligated things along the way here, to reserve these orders. I appreciate the predicament we're in. I fear the predicament it might put us in a couple of years down the road here.
The only thing I could add is, correct, and you're right, absolutely, they're obligating future dollars. Historically, these have been in the CIP, have been in the previous CIPs, and like garbage trucks, we have historically replaced 2 trucks every year. So this is not out of the ordinary, but I do understand what you're saying. We are obligating future dollars.
Okay, any further questions?
Yeah, I've got a question regarding the $708,000 per year. What is the per year mean? Is that for 2024 and 2025? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah,
Thank you.
each year for each of 2 years.
okay. So it's $708,000 for 2024. And then the same value for 2025.
Correct.
Okay, so that includes 2 trucks for each of those years.
That is correct.
Okay,
Okay, entertain a motion.
move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Alder Hutchinson, second by Alder Galvin. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those
Aye.
Aye.
opposed, motion carries. Item 3, for consideration with possible action, the approval of the Microsoft Enterprise 6.6 license renewal for 3 years for a total of $955,740.15. Director Haranik.
This is a 3-year agreement with Microsoft to use their Office products, their Windows Server environment, and basically Office 365. Office 365 has a lot of collaboration tools that should create many efficiencies for the city. We'd hope to see the efficiencies pay off the software, but it is kind of hard to get a return on investment calculation for me.
All right, and this is not a bonding request, right? This is general levy dollars?
This is general levy dollars every year.
Yep, okay. Any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second,
We have a motion by Galvin, a second by Hutchinson. Any further discussion?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item
Aye.
4, for consideration with possible action to allow the procurement manager to activate the contract with Tradition Energy prior to contract expiration of October 31st, 2022. Is procurement manager here?
He is, yep, Tom is on the line. Yes, so if you have some questions, I'm hoping he jumps on the line, but yeah, if you have any questions specifically to this item, looks like it's gonna come on now.
I don't have any questions. To me, it makes sense to try and get ahead of this and try and get the best price we can lock down for now, as opposed to waiting till the contract expires and then start looking. Everything right now seems to be pointing towards increases that would be detrimental to us.
Tom, did you have any commentary to add?
Yeah, I did start, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I did start this in May, and started watching the pricing and working with Tradition, because I knew our contract was going to expire on October 31st. The market has been very volatile. And the reason I brought this to your attention is when that price does drop, hopefully within the next 45 days, I want to be able to jump on it right away. So I'm thinking typically we would go into like a 3-year or 4-year contract on natural gas. I'm not thinking that's probably the correct thing to do right now. I think more of the short term because of the different variables. So I just brought it up today because I wanted to be able to get on that right away. If something happened where a price would drop one day, I could go ahead and lock it in.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I read the packet, makes sense to me. So appreciate your hard work on that, Tom. Thanks for monitoring it.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion.
move to approve.
We have a motion by Alder Hutchinson. Alder Galvin, was that a second?
Yes, it was.
Yep. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 5, for consideration of possible action to approve license plate recognition camera system subscription for 3 years for a sum of $332,000 to Flock Group, Inc. Chief Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is, we're merging two different processes here. And so just bear with me while I briefly try to explain. We had approval for ARPA, for a combination of ARPA and some community funding that's eligible for part of this project to install license plate reader cameras. As you know, we did a pilot project with Flock Corporation. On another track, while that was going on, that pilot project was approved over a year ago before I got here. Meanwhile, we were having a conversation with council about gunshot detection, and we were looking at up to $655,000 request for gunshot detection. Council directed that we go back, we do an RFP. We expanded the scope of that RFP because we just wanted to see what kind of crime reduction technology is out there. And at the end of all of that process, what we have determined will work better for us is a larger version of the ALPR program that we did the pilot project of. And Flock obviously won the competitive bidding process. Technology project was going to look like. So it actually comes together pretty well. But the upshot of all of this is what's before you today is a request for an additional, I believe it's $115,000 of ARPA money to go with what's already been approved, 150 something, I think, and then the 66,000-ish from community block grant funds. This pays, instead of the 28 camera pilot project that we were looking at just making more permanent, this would allow us to expand to 40 cameras and 2, I think they call them rapid deployment, but they're basically portable versions of this that we could deploy. Again, it all has to be done in a manner consistent with our policies. But this would actually give us a pretty good expansion of a project that, frankly, we have had. I mean, we had hopes for it anyway when we started the pilot project, and we have had some really big successes, and I think it exceeded even our expectations. This is in place of that original $655,000 gunshot detection request that we made for ARPA last year. We've decided, after all of this discussion, after the guidance from council and the RFP process, that a larger, more robust automated license plate reader project is a better fit for crime reduction technology and a better use of our resources at this point for the city of Green Bay.
All right, thanks for that overview, Chief. And you've had some recent success stories with the license plate reader, have you not?
We really have, yes. It's been involved in, I think, a couple of homicide cases up to this point, including a suspect who all our best investigative skills told us wasn't even in the state, that we were able to locate and came back to our community. And we would have never known about that opportunity. We had to pick that guy up. So, and that's just the big stuff. We've solved lots of other smaller crimes that, homicides obviously are a big deal, but a lot of crimes that we're able to solve with these cameras are things that impact lots of people on a day-to-day basis, like property crimes and those lower level persons crimes. So we believe this really is, after all of that process, the best fit for our community.
Any discussion? Alder Galvin?
I'm on board with this. I've been saying for a long time, we need to sweat the small stuff, and that'll take care of the big stuff. Gunshot detection just detects gunshot. This will help us solve a lot of crimes that aren't just gunshots. And a lot of these people that are doing the gun shooting are the ones doing these smaller crimes. So what we're doing is, instead of waiting for something serious to happen, we're getting it taken care of while it's still small potatoes. And I'm on board with that kind of an attitude. And I think this is well worth the money.
Yeah, I would second that, Alder Galvin. I think we had a really healthy and robust discussion around the gunshot detection system, and I think there were some significant concerns about the reliability, about the recurring costs. And of course, the overall benefit, how much coverage area we'd actually have with that system. And it seems that this is a really good alternative to not only bring good, reliable data, a reliable tool to our police department, but it also has a demonstrated track record of success during that pilot period. I think, Chief, you can, if I'm wrong, this will cover the initial 3-year subscription. And then, of course, after that, you're not going to have ARPA funds. Maybe block grant will be available, but probably have to be something that if the tool is still useful, that we'll have to figure out how to absorb into our operating budget through the levy. But and right now, when we do have that funding available to this very specific purpose and it's working, I don't know why we wouldn't support it.
Well, and one little bit of context to this is a police officer costs about $100,000 or so a year with pay and benefits. This is the cost of one full-time employee to have coverage in 40 different places in the city. So it really does help us make efficient use of the resources we have. And it's at that price, again, when you compare that to what gunshot detection gives us for that price, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and you've done a really good job too, Chief, of explaining. I mean, of course, there's always the big brother fear. I think you've done a really good job with explaining how this doesn't capture individual identities. It's just that license plate, and that's the photo. And as I've kind of shared with people, we've evolved from an eyewitness having to identify a vehicle or a license plate and having to remember it and report it, sometimes in a high stress situation, to technology that can reliably capture that data and eliminate errors. This to me just seems to be a common sense progression. I hate to say it, but catching criminals is an expensive business, and we need to be able to equip our police department with the tools that allow them to be effective at their job.
Agree.
Alder Steuer?
Sure, I agree as well. I think that was well put by Chief, talking about one police officer versus the 40 cameras. Chief, I was going to ask you, as far as this technology, will this help much in terms of speeding as well? I mean, you're looking at individual crimes and the good news that we had with the recent story that broke, but will this help with that much at all?
It can help us
in your estimation.
Could potentially help us indirectly if we had, for example, just a complaint of a chronic reckless vehicle or something like that. But photo traffic enforcement is illegal in Wisconsin, so that's something we have to be really careful not to get sideways with the state.
Right, and I realize that some of these happen at the state level, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Alder Galvin, a second by Alder Hutchison. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Alder Steuer, are you ready?
I am.
I appreciate you standing in. And I unfortunately have to check. Enjoy the rest of the meeting, folks.
All right. I was going Alder Galvin. Are you the vice chair?
Alder Burnett is.
Oh, Alder Burnett is. Okay. All right. So you want me to handle it?
Well, Alder
That's
Galvin is the chair of personnel. Would you mind taking over as the chair for the rest of this meeting?
Sure, I will. Thank you.
All right, we are on item number 6.
Okay, item number 6, for consideration with possible action, the approval to award the marketing and branding initiative to North Star Place Branding and Marketing for the sum of $101,000. Staff?
I'm not sure what you have for question. That we have Will is willing from the company that is would like to give a short presentation and answer some of your questions if you want to go right to that presentation, or if you want to understand more about the RFP and the process that was done, you could ask those questions. Not sure what direction the committee wants to go to first.
Sure. I'm happy with the RFP, looking at the paperwork and how it was done. And if everyone else is, I'd rather just get to an explanation of exactly what we're getting into here, or potentially getting into here.
Correct. Agree.
All right, Alder Steuer?
Yeah, I'm fine with that as well.
All right.
Okay, we will have to, I'm gonna ask Pam, maybe for some assistance to make, Will, is it Ketchum?
Yes, yes, hi,
A co-chair or something so that he can share his screen.
yep. Okay. It's been granted.
Thank you.
Can you see that screen, committee?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Will Ketchum with North Star. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida tonight, where we're headquartered, offices in Nashville also. Thank you for the opportunity to share the background on this project and the merits of community branding for the city of. If there are questions along the way, I'm going to move quickly because I know you have a full agenda, but please stop me. I'm happy to answer questions, or we can do that toward the end. You know, I'm a branding professional here to tell you that branding has a branding problem. And that is that the world pretty much thinks branding is about logos and slogans. And, you know, that's just a very superficial definition of the impact we believe we can have for the city of Green Bay. A new logo won't solve much. A brand will help the city of Green Bay compete for the future it wants by helping the city tell its most competitive, distinct, and authentic story to prospective residents. And I'm speaking specifically of talent, which is the new currency of economic development, as you all know, but also investors, employers, and visitors. Jobs are everything. You all are blessed with a low unemployment rate and a lot of good jobs. The difficulty the city of Green Bay faces is filling those jobs. If you look at the world in the last 40 years, most of our working lives and then some, things have really changed. The world smaller, globalization has sent a lot of jobs overseas and created a very competitive environment for job attraction and retention. The other dynamic of a smaller world is people are more mobile. You used to settle down. If you think about your parents or your grandparents, you chose a city and you were there. The world doesn't work that way anymore. People are more mobile, and talent and residents will move where they want, where they can find the very best quality of life and the very best career potential. As we look closer to the state of Wisconsin, you're doing great in the city of Green Bay right now, but there's some troubling trends at a state level. The rate of growth of population growth is declining. And in fact, there'll be a negative level of natural growth, that is births exceeding deaths, without migration. Without in-migration, the population trends will be negative just in about 3 years. The working age population is what your employers, who are the crux of your commercial tax base, are most interested in, of course. So in 2011, the state working age population peaked at 3.6 million in Wisconsin. By 2040, there will be zero growth in the working age population. So what we see right now across the country, and you can attest to this in Green Bay, I'm sure, that we have retiring baby boomers, and even some Gen Xers are approaching that age. And so that requires that in-migration fill the gap, meaning we've got to entice people to want to move to the city of Green Bay and in the city, not just in the outlying communities. Let's look closer to Green Bay. The good news is you've got 34% job growth predicted through 2030. Enviable statistic. And that's, again, attests to the GAR and the solid employers that you have. Now, Brown County's population growth does exceed the state growth level, and it's going to continue to do that. But what we see happening is that other municipalities, some within Brown County, some nearby, and outside of Brown County, are growing at a faster rate than the city of Green Bay. So again, you can see that the theme here is that over time, if Green Bay doesn't begin to compete harder for its share of talent and residents, there's going to be a problem. And our proposal here is about getting ahead of that problem by telling your most competitive story via this brand process. If we look at how quality of place is affecting how people think about where they want to live and work today, start around 9 o'clock on this graphic. Your employers want talented workers. Well, those talented workers now have the power to seek the place they want to live, looking for quality places. That's where the city of Green Bay's brand can play a role in inviting a resident to move to Green Bay. It's the suit of clothing, the handshake. Many of you own businesses. You would never go into a sales meeting without your value proposition clearly established and clearly articulated. So the brand allows you to articulate your value to those who might consider moving anywhere in the country. So as we move to around 3 o'clock, communities like Green Bay are striving to increase their quality of place. You've done amazing things with the investment at City Deck, the shipyard, potential Bay Beach restoration. You're investing in that quality of place. So now you need to tell that story of your quality of place. And so that's where branding can also play a role. Workers are rethinking things. We've got about 160 million people in our US labor force. A good quarter of them will stay fully remote. About 4 to 5 million want out of a major city. That means 4 to 5 million residents and workers are sort of in play. Now, we don't just want remote workers. We want workers that are going to go to work at your companies. But we'll take some remote workers because what we do know is that eventually they leave that job and they take a job in the community. So you can see how things have been changing in the economic picture and the workforce. We did some research just after 21 about why people move to smaller communities like the city of Green Bay. You remember, I'll reference our parents and grandparents again. They used to move where the job was, period. Now, only 12% of people move for the job. 46% of people move for the place. They move because they want to live in a special place, and then they figure out the job. So we want to put the city of Green Bay in the position to attract those people who are looking for a high quality of place. Your investments are admirable, significant, more to come as these renderings show. This brand investment is a very small percentage of what you're investing in your quality of place. So back to the sales model, we've got to help the world understand the story you've built in the city of Green Bay with all the investments in quality of place. So if you make all these investments, but then you're not able to tell that compelling story, you're not able to realize the full ROI on all these investments. The problem, and it's one that you should be very proud of because the Packers are an amazing American institution, but the Green Bay story is one-dimensional. So your prospects need more compelling reasons to consider the city of Green Bay if football is not their thing. But they also need to know that the quality of place, the neighborhoods, the people, the economic opportunities, the job opportunities are so abundant in the city of Green Bay. And if they only understand the Packers, they may not understand that. I want to briefly share how this has worked for a few other communities who are in the same situation. These are places that generally stand for one thing from afar. They are places that are famous for something like you're famous for the Packers, and we engage with them to help them broaden their story so they could compete at their best in the talent marketplace. First is Bakersfield, California. You may know of the Bakersfield Sound if you enjoy country music. Buck Owens and Merle Haggard said they'd had enough of Nashville, which was getting a little silky and orchestral in the 1960s. And they founded their own brand of country music, if you will, a little more guttural and hardworking out in Bakersfield. And that yellow sign is the other thing they're known for in Bakersfield. Their economy was built on agriculture and oil, two industries facing a lot of challenge with regulation and competition. So what we see in Bakersfield is economic transition, much like you're transitioning from a manufacturing economy to a services economy. So we helped Bakersfield tell that broader story, the sound of something better. Notice that we brought in and paid respect to their famous element, the Bakersfield Sound, but we talked about, hey, you can have a better life here that's a little more affordable than Los Angeles and have a little more house and have a lot of great opportunity. That gives you a quick sense of the brand, and there's some of their electeds and leaders launching that initiative. In Clark County, Nevada, you know Las Vegas. Las Vegas is known for one thing, the Strip. We engaged with Clark County for a different objective, which was to help diversify their economy beyond gaming and tourism. They knew that they were a company town. They had one company and it was called the Vegas Strip. We helped tell the story of all the bright minds at UNLV, the incredible innovation culture in Clark County and Las Vegas, and bright beyond the lights, a smart business location well beyond the lights of the Strip is what you can expect in Clark County, Nevada. And then in Fayetteville, North Carolina, if we have any military veterans on the committee, all would know that that is the home of Fort Bragg, the largest U.S. military installation in the world. The problem is Fayetteville was only known for Fort Bragg. And it's, of course, the home of the 82nd Airborne and our Special Forces, a formidable post and a great thing to have in their local economy. However, they were too dependent on one element of their notoriety, Fort Bragg. We helped look closer what this community was about. This is our DNA process. What we saw in those military cultural influences were highly trained professionals, but also the most devoted neighbors who are not in the service that always go further for you. We identified service, readiness, an Army concept, and also generosity in that community. And that led to their branding of Can Do Carolina. So we leaned on their military heritage, but we built the brand around something bigger to help them be understood as something more than Fort Bragg. So notice that advertisement on the upper left. You see the soldier there, but we also talk about all the other elements of the community. And then lastly, in Quincy, Illinois, on the Mississippi River, on the western edge of the state of Illinois, there's a look at Quincy, a similar river community like yours. They had 800 open jobs when we engaged. We launched the Quincy's Calling initiative, people to have a better income and a good life in what is a regional hub. You're the regional hub of Northeast Wisconsin. They are sort of a regional hub in southwestern central Illinois. And they have a beautiful, just like you, with great architecture, great history, but they were remote and people were not returning to Quincy after high school. And so we went out and asked for the order. We put a campaign out, although this proposal is not a campaign, to be clear, it is a brand development exercise. But in Quincy, we help build the brand and help them go after those workers. We're excited to say that 1 year since the campaign effort, we've attracted 117 new residents to Quincy who have taken those jobs. So their employers are feeling better about the future because they know that Quincy can sell if it makes an effort. Specific impacts of place branding: increased competitiveness, higher returns on investment in real estate and infrastructure. You know, when the big retailers and the big investors seek out new markets, they want to know it's a place that has its story together and is attracting new population growth. It also has some practical benefits. The brand can, in a way, with that DNA approach, guide coherent city development, and of course, create pride in the city. We heard someone talk about green blah. You know, every town has their naysayers, right? But let's raise the self-esteem of your people by reminding them what's great about the city of Green Bay. Just a little about us, and we'll wrap up for any questions. We help places reach their preferred futures. That's the business we're in. We help cities compete. So it's not about a logo and a slogan. It's about your most competitive story. We have been awarded the City Brand of the Year by our leading trade organization, which is sort of a branch of the ICMA, which you may be familiar with. And some of our work featured recently on the cover of American City and County. Our approach is very balanced. Resident engagement is vital. We do research inside the community and outside. So we're going to survey all your residents, but we're also going to see how people see you from afar. Perhaps we choose Milwaukee and Chicago, whatever markets you want to understand how they think about you. And then we have a process to build stakeholder consensus. Really important, not to surprise the community with this process, but rather to bring them along through the process, make them partners in it. And then, of course, unique creative and activation ideas for the city of Green Bay. I won't go into depth about the process, but you can see it's methodical and careful and thoughtful. It takes about 7 to 9 months. At the center of this shaped like an hourglass is that DNA and strategy formation. And that's where we get to the heart of what Green Bay really is all about. What makes your community tick? And I can bet you that it's about something more than the Packers. It might be an idea that was born of the Packers, but it's something deeper and bigger, just like we saw in Fayetteville. And that's the story we can bring to the surface. The heart of the effort is listening, engaging, and learning. And we come and spend a lot of time in your community to determine what is authentic, distinct, and ownable. Those are the 3 words that we want to bring to the table in terms of your brand story. How can we be authentic to your people, distinct in the marketplace, and how can we say something that no one else can say? Those are our requirements for ourselves. Results are vital. We find that each community has different objectives, and we understand that workforce attraction is one of yours. It might also be economic development, new job creation, investment. We look forward to talking about that, but those metrics are established up front. So this branding thing sounds a little soft and squishy, but it's not. We want to attach accountability and metrics to this effort, and we have ways to help you measure impact over time. In the end, we are proven municipal brand builders. We enjoyed working with your staff and procurement on getting this far in the process. We'd love the opportunity to talk further with council on Tuesday night, and I'd be happy to. I appreciate the time.
Sure. If I could, Alder Burnett has been able to join us, and
Yeah.
I will hand over the chair to him.
Thank you, Alderman Galvin. I apologize to everyone here. I had some pretty significant internet connection issues that I figured it out finally by pushing a bunch of buttons on my computer. Somehow it worked. So anyways, Mr. Ketchum, thank you for the presentation. I'm the vice chair of the committee who is in place since Alderman Johnson's unable to attend the remainder of the meeting. So for all council members, are there any questions for Mr. Ketchum? Alder Hutchinson, Galvin, I'll let you get the first crack at it, and then I'll recognize other alders not on the committee.
Okay, I guess I've got a question with regards to the branding helping planning. And I say that because there's 2 things that weren't mentioned yet, which are vital to the branding or how Green Bay thinks of itself. One is the lineup. It's something that just doesn't come across to people in Green Bay. The Fox River was one of the most heavily polluted rivers with PCBs in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And people think of the Fox River as someplace not necessarily to go. now the dredging, $1 billion worth of dredging has occurred, and we've got basically a clean column of water now. And it's a place to go and not be put in the presence of chemicals like it used to be. So that's one. And the other is Wisconsin apparently is going to be a destination immigration site because of global warming. People across the U.S. are looking for places to go. And if you draw a bullseye, it's going to be right in the Midwest, right around the Great Lakes, right around Wisconsin. So even though there's been a lot of traffic out of Wisconsin, and so I think we need to plan, and we need to plan by branding, because by branding, we'll identify what's important, but we got to make sure we identify it. It's really important. So I'm in favor of sending this forward to the council.
Alder Hutchinson, do you have a question for the speaker?
Well, I have a question. Do you interface with the city staff with regards to the existing plan of what's supposed to be developed in our development plans, or is it more a column of work that you do kind of independently?
Alder Hutchinson, just so you know, you're getting some feedback in your connection, so you're cutting
Oh, I
in and
am.
out, but I think we got the crux of what
Okay.
you were getting at, but Mr. Ketchum, could you
Yeah,
respond to that?
I think I understood the question. The answer is that we are highly integrated with the city's and staff's strategic plan. So it is not in a vacuum or sort of in a separate lane, if you will, because this brand is to answer where you are going strategically and to illuminate the stories that make you more competitive, like you just shared. With severe weather, you could be a haven for severe weather, but also illuminating things like the Fox River cleanup. So no, we'd be highly integrated and working closely with staff and reading everything we can get our hands on in the way of strategic plans and direction for the city.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Alder Hutchinson?
No, I'm fine.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Alder Galvin, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
All right, Mr. Stoyer, Alderman Stoyer, I saw you had your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Ketchum, for the presentation. Council, we kind of haggled over this some time ago as far as branding and such, and you know, the effectiveness of a logo versus branding. And this is really the first time that I've seen a presentation that actually kind of puts some things in perspective. And I guess, you know, you brought up some good points about Green Bay's population growing at a very, you know, slower, steady pace as opposed to some of the other areas around. But did you find that with other communities you worked with, that you combined the population growth along with the job growth? Did you find that for the most part, after the branding initiatives, that it was a positive for these communities pretty much all the way across the board?
We have almost uniform feedback from clients that they feel more equipped to go after their share of the pie, meaning job creation and new residents. You really can't go ask for new residents without a brand story today, because people that are in the marketplace are such consumers of information. And so, yeah, we could share stories or any case studies of folks that Quincy, Illinois is one that has attracted both residents and workers after our branding efforts.
Well, thank you for that. And I do appreciate Alder Hutchinson's comments that he gave to talking about our river. You know, it wasn't a resource per se, but now it is. So
Great
we
story.
have to really work on that. So I'm good for now. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Stoyer, thank you, Alderman Stoyer. Any questions from any other council members? All right, Mr. Ketchum, I do have a question for you. You had mentioned, and I apologize, I could not be here for the entire presentation, but you had mentioned that this is a brand development project and not necessarily a campaign. From what I
Right.
understand, a campaign would be how we promote it. So on one hand, we're rebranding the city, but if there aren't people outside of the city who know that Green Bay has been rebranded, maybe we're not getting the attention that we're looking for. From a campaign standpoint, what would you say something like this would cost, like a marketing campaign once we've been branded?
Yep. The first way that we would deploy the brand is to work through the channels where you're already spending. So for instance, in the economic development marketplace, your EDC or the economic development department, Matt, they're out in the marketplace. So we would apply the new branding to their efforts. So there's no incremental campaign cost there. Now, let's just hypothetically say you do engage in a talent and residential growth campaign. It's hard to be definitive, but I would say that a campaign, which means, as you picked up here, it means you're out advertising or using public relations and media relations, digital advertising, a website, videos, things of that nature to help prospects engage. I think it would be not much more low than the current contract. So that's a 1-year contract, but I think for another second or third or fourth year of campaign implementation, I think you're looking at, again, those low 6-figure types of investments. The most important thing we want to do, though, is leverage the expenditures that your CVB and your EDC are already spending. So to try and create no incremental spend there, but rather just that new suit of clothing and that stronger, more competitive story.
Okay, the bid of $101,000 would get us through 1 year, you said?
It's approximately that. So it's, I can't remember if you missed that portion. It's about a 7 to 9 month process. Sometimes it takes up to 10 months. So I was just ballparking about a year. Yeah.
In some of the other municipalities and entities you worked with, when they implement the next stage of the campaign, do they spend, did you say 6 figures or 7 figures?
Low 6 was what I was just forecasting. They again use it in the ways they already market themselves, but they just look more competitive and more compelling. So you don't have, if you create this brand, you're not bound to a campaign investment. It certainly helps, but it all depends on your objectives. And there are very low cost ways to make the brand work. For instance, you have a lot of visitors that come to Green Bay because of your sports mecca status. We have low cost ways to help market to those who are visiting Green Bay to consider relocating to Green Bay.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other questions from the committee or council? I don't see everyone, so if you have a question, just raise your hand or start speaking.
Alder Burnett,
Stoyer?
just a point of order. I filled in for Alder Johnson. Do you want me to still remain on the committee for this?
I was
meeting
going
or
to
back
ask,
up?
Attorney Bungart that after we close the floor.
And I'm fine either way. So anyway,
I could probably do that now because we'll have to make a vote to close the floor. Attorney
Right.
Bungart, in this situation, should Mr. Stoyer stay on as a committee member, or should it be the three of us?
At this point, he can be excused because quorum has been met with the standing committee members.
Okay.
all right.
All right. Thank you for that, and thank you for filling in, Alderman Stoyer. Can I get a
Enjoy.
motion to close the floor?
So moved.
So moved.
By Alder
Second.
Galvin, second by Hutchinson to close the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, now we'll discuss the agenda item. Any comments from the committee or questions for staff?
I have none.
I have none. It's
Uh,
pretty straightforward in my mind.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Hutchinson. I do have a question for staff. One thing that I noticed was it went out to bid in in April, and now it's September. You know, that length of time, in my experience, has been rather unusual. Could you kind of explain that? How did we get to this process? Because originally the council voted to move forward with the bid in like December, and then by the time it went out to bid, it was April, and now 5 months later. Can you kind of fill us in on why it took so long?
Probably defer maybe to Tom, our procurement manager. Or I know Ahmad Rivera was also on the evaluation team. I'm not sure if one of those two could kind of speak to the timing of this item.
Either or, that doesn't matter to me.
I'll be happy to make comments just about the process, but I think we did a traditional process, and Tom or Diane, who led the process, is a pretty standard process that we went forward with. So we waited, we interpreted the council's wishes based on the process ahead of time. We then put the bid out, the maximum amount of time for to receive those bids. We then reviewed those bids with an internal team that was appointed by the Community Economic Development Department and others within the city and staff. We reviewed those through the traditional process. And then we informed the person who had received the highest score of that process. And then we have now brought that to council. That is our, that's our typical process. So I'm curious if Diane wants to speak more clearly, but that is the process that we went forward in the way that we treat every RFP. I imagine that given that that timing was around, I believe that actually the decisions were made in the January meeting, not December. But the vote for that meeting, we also had to get some clarity, which is why you have before you an agenda item where there were some decisions, and Diana, you can speak to this, that were made accordingly or not so. So we had to figure out exactly where the money would be coming from, what vote would look like. And so there was some reflection and time taken to make sure that we had gotten this right the way that we were supposed to. And so that's why it looks the way it does before you now. I don't know if Diane or Tom or Diana would like to add to that.
Tom, did you have anything you want to add to about the timing of the RFP? I do also know that if I remember, I was not part of the evaluation, but I believe there was quite a few proposals and they were somewhat long for review also. So it took a little longer for the members of the evaluation team to get really through all of the options. So I think that had something to do with it. Tom, did you have anything more to add on that?
Yeah, the RFP process is standard. So regardless of what we're bidding out, that process is always going to be the same. In this instance, we ended up with a pretty large evaluation team. So coordinating that and getting that all together for the scoring took a lot longer than what the typical process takes. So through this process, we ended up, you are right, it did start earlier in the year, but to make sure that we were doing due diligence and making the right decision on who we were moving forward through this process, I mean, we went through the steps, but when you have a large group like that and you're getting together, time goes by really fast. So, as far as posting it out there and getting it out there and getting proposals from people, that timing is always the same through that process. But the evaluation part of it did take pretty long as far as how that goes through the process.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, all of you. You answered it well. This question, I guess, would be for Attorney Bungart. Now, just very, very candid for some of the council who weren't here the last time, I was against the rebranding allocation. I felt like there are a lot of needs that the city has that I should take precedent. Not that branding or rebranding isn't important. That's just my opinion. So now it has gone to bid. Attorney Bungart, are we obligated to move forward with this, or are we bound by the actions of the previous council?
I'm not sure whether
So
you are bound. So essentially, once the item has gone to bid, action has been taken. So as far as going backwards, that wouldn't be an option. But as far as your decision, With respect to the bid, obviously, council still has the discretion in determining whether to allocate funding and to approve and award the bid. So my understanding is that's what's in front of the finance committee at this point. So the only
again,
action that council did, sorry to interrupt, but
That's fine.
just to clarify a little bit more, because I feel like I did kind of a circular answer. Essentially, the only the action that council took previously was to move forward with the bid process and returning that, and council would decide further action from there on.
So council could hypothetically vote down accepting the bid,
Or awarding the bid, correct?
awarding the bid. Okay.
Mhm.
And that would be.
Awarding the contract essentially, right? The bid has already been, right. The selected vendor has been presenting the contract and pursuing the contract as presented.
Okay, all right, that's really what I wanted to know. Alder Eck, I see you have your hand raised. You want to have a question or comment?
Yeah, sorry, I was having technical difficulties, so I was on my phone and I couldn't unmute it. So now I'm on the right computer. That's why I didn't ask this earlier. But what I wanted to know, and again, I wasn't part of the whole presentation, I guess back in, sounded like February. What is the difference between this and what Discover Green Bay is doing? As far as promoting people to the Green Bay area?
Is that
My
directed?
understanding, if staff.
Sir, one moment. If the question's to you, we have to open the floor again.
Oh,
So-
sorry. Okay,
No, that's fine. It's just a, protocol you may not be familiar with.
sure.
So is there a staff member that can answer that? Otherwise, I'd be happy to open the floor again if that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to open the floor.
Okay.
Oh, I can speak to it if you'd like. I just was raising my hand.
Sure, Mr. Rivera, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Go ahead.
No problem. Just want to let folks know there's two different processes. Discover Green Bay is a regional approach to tourism and tourism engagement. They are often working on a variety of things, like the Chamber of Commerce is also working on a variety of things, trying to engage folks to both who are already here, the business community, as well as tourism and tourism attraction. A branding initiative for the city and by the city would be about Green Bay, the community itself and how we brand ourselves. Discover Green Bay is a regional organization. The Chamber of Commerce is a regional organization, and they're doing a variety of different engagements that sometimes is employment, sometimes it's tourism, but a specific branding initiative would be to the city of Green Bay, the way that we do our materials, the way that we approach the workforce, the way that the way that we, what types of things that we emphasize. This would be specific to Green Bay. So those are completely two different entities that operate and serve different constituencies. And so just want to make sure that was clear, Alder Eck.
Okay, thank you.
Alder Eck, do you want us to open the floor again, or are you satisfied with that answer?
Well, I guess I wouldn't mind hearing from, trying to see his name on here. I apologize.
It's Will. It's Will.
He started
Will.
answering. Yeah,
From
he
Will.
started answering. That's why I want to at least give him the opportunity. Okay, I had a motion
Yeah.
from Alder Galvin to open the floor. I'll second that. Second by Alder Burnett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Mr. Ketchum?
Alder Eck, I would say the principal difference between this initiative and Discover is that they are promoting tourism, meetings, and conventions. So, and those are important to your economy. They can lead to relocation, but this effort would be about branding the city of Green Bay proper as a place to live or locate a business, so not tourism. It wouldn't hurt tourism. It'll certainly be supportive of that and work in complementary fashion, but its objective is living and, of course, representing the quality of the municipality and that it provides the services that it provides for your residents. Whereas Green Bay is really talking, Discover is talking to outside visitors and meeting planners.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for the gentleman before we close the floor again? Okay, no questions?
Motion.
Second,
Mo- Motion by Alder Galvin, seconded by Hutchinson to close the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. I do have a question for Attorney Bungard. I've been just kind of contemplating this out of respect for Mr. Ketchum in his presentation. I was not here during a majority of the presentation, and now I'm going to be voting on the item, and I don't think it would be fair to the gentleman here in his presentation if I don't feel like it would be right for me to vote when I don't have all the information that was provided. So, I mean, could I abstain from this, or in this case, could Alder Stoyer vote since he's been a member this entire time?
Right, I wouldn't recommend substituting because substitution should only occur for lack of quorum or to be able to maintain quorum to continue a
Okay.
meeting. As far as, you can certainly elect to abstain from the vote. That's entirely up to your discretion. Any kind of action that's coming out of finance is merely merely a recommendation and forwarding onto council for further discussion. So your vote here is essentially just a referral onto onto the council for further action. But if you would like to be recorded from abstaining, that's certainly within your discretion.
So
There's
hypothetically,
nothing that prohibits you from voting, even though you weren't here for the entire discussion.
so hypothetically, if this passes 2-0 with me abstaining, would that go to council as a recommendation, or would that be like a would we need 3 members out of the 4 members?
Right, if the motion fails for either like any kind of dispositive motion, essentially the item does still proceed on to council with no recommended action out of finance committee. So then it will have to be taken up by council for a full council discussion and vote.
Okay, thank you. I'm conflicted on it. I just either way, because I wasn't here for a majority of the presentation. So Alder Stoyer.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I presume this presentation will take place again at council, correct?
Well, we'll be voting on the agenda.
Right, I know, but I'm
We'll
just
probably
saying
open the floor. Right, it'll be part of the minutes that I can
the
review.
minutes, but I want to know if presentation will be also at council that we just saw at finance.
Well, I think anyone could review the minutes and the recording of this meeting, Alder Stoyer. I think
All
it
right.
would be a little unorthodox, but I mean, the council could do that if we decide to do that. Mr. Ahmad, could you kind of comment on that? Would the mayor's office be in coordination with in case we want a more in-depth presentation there?
I think the mayor would be in support if there was a decision by the council to have this presentation echoed at council, if they so chose, or if that's continued so.
Yeah, it would be great to open the floor when we get there, Alder Stoyer. So I hear your point. It's
Okay.
received. Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Yeah,
Okay.
I listened to this. I heard all the comments back last year from people, many constituents chimed in, social media. And I would have to say that based on what Mr. Ketchum presented today, like he said at the beginning of the presentation, people have a very narrow, limited view of exactly what rebranding is. Us is much more in what I think the city's looking for. We are suffering private and public sector from filling positions. We have the need for more good employees and residents for this community. And I think what he's describing here as what they want to try and attempt to do with the city of Green Bay is something that would be very beneficial for us. When people were just talking about a new logo for the city or attracting tourism, when they try to compare it to what the Chamber of Commerce is doing, this is night and day, in my opinion. And I think this needs to be seen by all council members at council so that they can all see exactly what we're trying to do here. And I think putting more residents into this community And more of those residents working at our businesses is what we need to do.
And I'll second, I agree with that. And I think the more we have dovetailing behind planning and the way we do things now, the way we're going to do things in the future, we can't plan enough efficiently without something like this. It's a good way to transition this city into the future. So I agree, the council needs to see this presentation before they vote.
Yeah.
With my second.
I would also add in too, Chair, that, Green Bay has the potential, the last I heard, to place another 30-some thousand residents in the far east side of Green Bay. We've got a lot of room to grow. I would prefer those people being channeled or directed to that area of Green Bay and some of the other developments we have doing with apartment complexes in that downtown and in that near area. That's where I would want people to be directed, instead of to Ashwaubenon or Bellevue or some of the other surrounding communities. And if we have someone in our corner doing that for us, I think we were going to be much better served than just relying on a organization that's trying to get more tourist dollars into our community, try and fill our needs.
Yeah, and what I'll say, my comments are that I remember it was not as well received from the greater community when this was proposed. Maybe there was a lack of information or lack of marketing that went out to the initiative, but it's dollars from the Oneida Cooperative Governance Agreement. And at that time, when we passed it, I should say the council passed it because it was not a unanimous vote by far. It was controversial in that we had a very large bond issue that was in excess of $30 million. So at that time, the council was trimming the bond issue in order to create a budget and create a borrowing plan that was reasonable. And I think at the time I had said $100,000 would pay for basically 3 police cars at a time where we are basically borrowing money on a 5 or 10 year bond issue for police cars that last no more than 3 or 4 years. So the financing at that time seemed a little strange to me. And I don't think that it was well received, at least from the conversations that I had. I thought that people that I spoke to, and which were many, they said, what is the city doing? Of all the priorities, this is lower on the list. But out of fairness to the gentleman and the organization and all the organizations that bid on the project, I will certainly review the presentation and keep an open mind when this goes to the council. So with that, go ahead.
I would highly recommend that. I think anyone that would, like you said, it was very controversial and there was very little information given out at the time explaining what this was all about. I think anyone that was against this needs to take a look at this presentation that was made before they can make a well-informed decision. It's great to have a gut reaction on, do we want a new flag, a new logo, cheese, Packer emblems, that kind of stuff. That's nothing. That is nothing compared to what was presented here tonight. And I think, do we want to expand? Do we want to generate more revenue, tax revenue? How do we do that? We do that by expanding our businesses and by expanding our residential areas. And the only way we do that is by putting people in those places. I don't think if we just sit back and wait for people to come to us, that's not the way it works anymore. We have to be aggressive, just like any company trying to expand or improve their marketing. They have to be aggressive. And I think the city needs to do that. To sit there and just think, oh, yay, Green Bay, people will come here, in droves. Well, we're seeing that that's dynamic. I think this is something that we should really consider. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alder Galvin. So having said all of that, Alder Eck, do you have a quick comment?
Yeah, and I apologize if I missed it, but I see that the item is to approve the 110,000. Is
101.
there
It's 101.
or 101, sorry. Look, I'm trying to find, it's small print on my agenda. So that was that a one-time fee, or is that just like the start? Because when I see the word rebranding and marketing, those are two different things. Rebranding is one thing, and then to market it would seem like an ongoing thing and an ongoing cost. So I'm just trying to find out, because I'm not seeing it on this agenda item, at least from what I could see, like any future costs.
Okay, thank you. Are you directing that question to specifically? Economic development, finance, mayor's office?
I was thinking maybe Diana, I'm
Director
sorry, my
Ellenbecker?
dog is barking. Yes, Director Ellenbecker.
I will start the conversation, but I could potentially have someone else jump in. It is a one-time fee at this point for the services that we ask them to complete. So that is really the rebranding purpose portion of it. And you're right, when they went out, they asked about the marketing and branding. But at this point, it's a one-time fee. And as Will had said, I think it's, 7 to 9 months, really maybe a year by the time it's really, they complete this first portion. So it's a one-time fee for what has been put in front of us in that RFP. If anyone else has something different, they certainly can jump in. Tom or Ahmad, anything else that you would want to add to that?
There's not a first or second part of the process. There's just the RFP that we put out to do a rebranding initiative. And we got several proposals, and this was the best proposal. So this is a one-time fee. I think when we talk about possibilities, that means in the future, if the city is interested in doing other types of activities, then we would also then go to council, get a budget, and then have an RFP process. But there is a start and finish product. They've been outlined in this proposal. They are in the proposal that gave the city. This presentation is based on that proposal. They have metrics for what that would look like. So this is a one-time RFP process that was initiated and approved by council. And what's now going before council is whether to approve the funding allocation associated with the RFP. As always, if there's something in the future that we want to do more with, I can't imagine that any company would say no to us if that's something that we're interested in doing, but that would then be subjected to the same exact process that this was, which would be, this would go before council. There'd have to be a RFP review process, and it would go from there. So just to be super clear, their RFP went out. There's a product that they're willing to produce for us. This product costs this much money. That was reviewed by our standard process. And what's before council is whether or not to approve the funding associated with this one product. And that would go forward. And there are no contingencies, and there's no expectation for any next stages. This is a single product that we're moving forward with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ahmad. Okay, with that, we have a motion on the floor to approve. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? I'll be abstaining, so that would be 2-0 with one abstention. Attorney Bungart, we forwarded, obviously it's going to go to council. Would that be an approved motion or not an approved?
It wouldn't be a successful motion, so it essentially,
Or to council with no recommendation?
correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ketchum, the city council meets 20th, which is next Tuesday. It is an in-person meeting if you're able to make it. Otherwise, we allow Zoom as well. So look forward to you visiting us there, and we have a council of 12. So thank you for your time and your presentation.
Thank you all.
All right. Yep, thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bear with me, everyone. I have to go back in my agenda. So, Alder Galvin, did we take anything out of order before I got here?
No, we took everything in order.
Okay, so it looks like we're on item 7 for referral from Ethics Board at the Common Council meeting on August 30th to approve a review by cityethics.org for up to $500 of the General Ordinance 18-22, repealing and recreating Chapter 2, Article 9, Green Bay Municipal Code relating to ethics as revised. Alderman Weary had suggested this, or I did, I don't remember which, but is he here? Otherwise, Attorney Bungart, if you could respond to that.
Sure. Before I move into this, I actually am reversing myself because I got turned around with our moving quorum. I think the last item does move on as approved because the quorum is 3. So as long as you have 2 out of the 3 voting in the affirmative, it does move on. however, as abstaining. So you're not voting either in the affirmative or in the negative. So
Okay,
just wanted to
fair
clarify.
enough. Yeah,
Yes,
someone
okay.
from the mayor, someone from the city could, let Mr. Ketchum know that in fact we did approve
Yes.
it.
Mhm.
That would be a good courtesy to extend. Thank you.
All right, so moving on to this agenda item. So as council referred to finance committee, looking into hiring the outside consultant to do another review of the revised ethics ordinance that we presented to council at the last meeting. My understanding is that the expense for the review previously was $500. I don't have the exact date of when that happened. I believe it was a few years ago. So I don't have a current quote as to what another review would look like, and whether it would still be $500 or if it would be more. Generally, expenses are going up everywhere, so I would presume it'll probably be more, but I can't say definitively what that cost is going to be. As far as law department's current legal expenses, we just recently received another significant invoice from our outside counsel handling our tax appeal cases. And so we're anticipating we're going to hit our budgeted allotment of 37,500 for the year. And we still have a number of other costs that are still pending towards the end of the fiscal year. So while I may have room for a $500 expense right now, it's likely it's not going to be there come December 31st. And I will either have to be looking for contingency for this expense or contingency for my other regularly budgeted for legal expenses, which includes our fourth quarter municipal code supplement. Based on, however many ordinances we're going to be passing, our muni code needs to be supplemented. And so we pay for those additional supplements to update our code online and our hard copies. And then additional attorney's fees, specifically for our property tax appeals that are pending. We're anticipating going into depositions in October. So those are going to be late forthcoming invoices that are going to hit our budget towards the end. So obviously the more prudent thing is to keep that budget, I can't think of the word, keeping that buffer available, as we know that these are expenses that are coming forward. Lastly, there's an additional subscription for our international municipal lawyers attorney subscription. That's another we're anticipating. So that's kind of the framework of where we are with financing. So at this point, staff's recommendation would be to refer this back to staff to get an actual quote, if that is the desire of the committee, actually figure out where that money should be coming from. The other to approve up to a certain threshold, see if we can get services in that amount, and then also identify a funding source for that expenditure.
Any questions or comments from the
Um,
Hutchinson? Go ahead.
Yes, in the packet, there was a red line version. Is that like 2 years old, or is that what you're saying?
The red line version is what we were, we basically repealed and recreated the entire code. So there were two versions, I believe. One had highlighted summaries and notations from so we had hired outside counsel to help in drafting this ethics ordinance, Attorney Mike May from Boardman and Clark, and those summary comments were included as part of the revision to basically help guide along the reader, help guide along the alders and members of the public to find out and identify what sections were included based on our prior consultant review, what sections staff included, what was changed, what remains the same, what's completely brand new, what's been modified. And then the other version that had the redlining was changes that just came out of the ethics board. The ethics board did recommend a couple minor changes to the substantive text of the ordinance. And so both documents were included for council.
Okay, so then what we're being asked to do is look at those two documents and either approve them I guess we're trying to ask a consultant to review these two documents.
Correct. So a
Okay.
few years ago, council referred or hired essentially this outside consultant firm to review our then current ethics code and code of conduct. And then they gave us feedback on different issues that they saw, changes that we should be making, model language, things of that nature. And we took all that information, provided that to our outside counsel, who then worked with our staff in drafting this new version and heavily revised code. Part of the recommendation was to repeal the code of conduct, which council successfully did. So now all that is left is moving forward with the revised ethics ordinance. And
Okay.
this got referred back to finance to send back to the original consultant that had initially gave us comments to do another review of what has been revised.
And essentially because 2 years had passed by.
I'm
Right.
not sure. I think the reasoning that Alder Weary had provided was just he wanted to make sure that everything that that they had recommended was there, or to at least bullet point, what their assessment is of what we are now presenting.
Thank you.
Alder Galvin.
Attorney Bungert, you had a litany of costs and everything there. What did it cost us to hire Attorney May to help us through the process of redoing this ethics?
I don't have that offhand. I can potentially get that number for you for council, but I
Okay.
don't have that breakdown in front of me.
Right, and that was something I was wondering if Alder Weary, and he's not here unfortunately, so we can't ask him, but obviously this company that they made recommendations, we gave those recommendations and our current code to Attorney May, who went through it, made revisions. It was reviewed several times by the ethics committee. Those reviews and revisions were open to council members to take a look at. And that's why I guess my real concern here is it looks like we're trying to spend another $500 or more to have this same company go back and review the review that was reviewed by them and by the attorney that we hired. And I'm not sure if that's a good use of taxpayer dollars at this point in time, if the council members haven't even gone through to look at what the revisions are and if they meet their expectations.
Alder Galvin, you done?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I support spending up to $500. Obviously, we don't want to spend more taxpayer dollars if we don't need to, but we, for those members of the council who have been doing this for a while, conduct was not the best thing to have passed. And then we had attempted several times to get an outside review. And I guess my point of one of the reasons why I supported the referral was that keep in mind that the ethics code, as wonderful as our attorneys are, that ethics code also oversees their activities, and they're wonderful professional people. But I think having an outside review, even if it costs $500, would be sufficient, because then going forward, whenever there's an accusation against a city employee or elected official, we can say we did have those outside reviews, and it would save a lot of money. I mean, you just think about how much time the code of conduct for elected officials cost the city government over the years. There have been several of us who have been accused of something and then it went through the ethics board. So, and we're mostly always cleared, but maybe one or two exceptions. So it's just one of those things. I think it would be good to have an outside review of the ethics board that we're all going to be accountable.
Well, that's what was done. And I think everyone seems to be kind of missing that. The city attorneys didn't rewrite this. This was done by a person that we contracted with. The city contracted with another attorney's firm, rewrite this based on the recommendations from a company we already paid $500 to review it. So I'm not seeing where our city attorneys would be the ones that could be held accountable for rewriting this. It was recommendations made by one company, handed over to another company, who independently rewrote it, presented it to the ethics committee for suggestions, recommendations, approval, disapproval. And that's what was forwarded, the final package, that's what was forwarded to the city council, or is going to be referred to the city council. I mean,
Yeah.
and I guess I would also ask to see if Attorney Bungard has, she's had her hand up there for a bit.
Oh, go ahead.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to make up a quick clarification that I think what Alder Burnett, and please correct me if I'm misconstruing what you were the point that you were trying to make with respect to the costs that have been incurred by the city with respect to different ethics complaints. The majority of those were brought under the code of conduct, not under the ethics ordinance. And that was where the majority of our issues and liabilities existed, because that code of conduct was fairly, for the most part, very much structured on subjective factors versus kind of objective metrics. And that was what created a lot of consternation and a lot of litigation and hearings and costs for outside counsel. That code of conduct no longer exists because that was effectively repealed by act of council last time, or at the last meeting. So the ethics ordinance is a lot, I mean, for the majority of the provisions actually reflect what's already provided for in state statutes. It just creates the ethics board and creates the authority for the ethics board to hear those complaints, but it largely does model what the state already provides. And then, as I indicated in that document with the yellow highlighting, that kind of gives you a section by section explanation as far as where this comes from and what the purpose of it is.
Yeah.
So just wanted to make that clarification because we kind of almost use it interchangeably, but the code of conduct was very different from what the ethics ordinance is. And the code of conduct is rest in peace.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Alder Galvin, I have a comment on that, but Alder Galvin, you have the floor.
I relinquish it.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for that explanation, Attorney Bungard. For some members who haven't been here in a while, I know it can be kind of confusing, but as I mentioned at the meeting a week or two ago, there were certain recommendations that group had offered upon revision, and it was not adopted. And I'm just going to be completely candid. I do have some concerns about the code of ethics, some of the things that I feel the council members are being restricted by condoing. And what I mean by that specifically is inspection issues. Of course, we don't want to go back to the old days where city council members would really harass city staff members, intervening between their constituents in the inspection department. I think we have a professional council, and I think we know those proper boundaries currently, but I know it may not always be the case going forward. But there are circumstances where I like to be involved with some inspection related kit for my constituent. So if there's a constituent that has a concern about something, I just dealt with one just within a week or so ago. So a little more clarity or language around there that just doesn't make the council feel like we're doing something wrong by advocating and trying to be a peacekeeper between inspection and constituents. And I don't know if that's possible, but to have an outside review of that, I think would be beneficial. So anyways, I don't want to belabor the point. I think we're all probably not going to be in agreement on this. If there's no other questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion. It's $500. I mean, to at least get Attorney Bungard to get an estimate, it might be worth it.
That's my recommendation is for staff to find out how much it would cost to review the code of ethics, and then we can go forward from there.
I agree. Okay, is that for staff?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll
Galvin.
second.
Okay, motion to refer to staff by Elder Galvin, second by Elder Hutchinson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Attorney Bungard? You know what we want you to do, right? All good? All right, thank you. Bear with me. I'm sorry, guys, I lost my, can one of you read the next agenda item while I sign back in?
Sure. Number 8 is a request by Alder Galvin to the Finance Committee, which states resolution to Brown County Board to consider an equitable way to divide a portion of the proceeds from the Brown County half-cent sales tax proceeds amongst the other local government entities within Brown County. The shared funds should be allocated with the provision that the monies can only be used to reduce current debt, fund new infrastructure, or repair or replace current infrastructure.
Okay, thanks, Elder Galvin. I see it now. Do you want to take the lead on this? Obviously, it's
Sure.
a communication.
All I'm looking for is when the county was looking for support for their half-cent sales tax that they instituted several years ago. I had discussions with County Executive Streckenbach and with Board Chair Buckley as they were trying to educate me and convince me why it was necessary to approve the half-cent sales tax. I asked them only as a point of discussion that could there be a time in the future when the county had satisfied its goals with the half-cent sales tax, that could the tax be continued or started up again with an idea towards sharing some of that revenue with all the different governmental entities within Brown County, and they have, if they wanted, very narrow focus put on what those monies could be used for. Several counties in Wisconsin currently have a half-cent sales tax program, and they do share those proceeds with the other governmental entities within their county. So this is only a resolution asking the county exec and the chairman of the board for Brown County, saying as I already asked them, and they said they would be willing to look at it if we could start those discussions now.
Okay, all right. Alder Hutchinson, or, I mean, do you want staff to respond to that, Alder Galvin, or just want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that it be referred to council for approval, that we send a resolution to the county to that effect. I mean, if staff feels they can spice up the wording or, make it more grammatically correct or anything, I'm all forward for that.
If we get a second, but I'd like to ask questions, Alder Galvin, if you have a minute.
Sure.
Well, you have a minute, you know what I mean, figure of speech.
Yep.
So obviously, maybe this might be a question for staff, because I don't want to, I see what you're trying to accomplish. And of course, when there's a sales tax and Green Bay's the top municipality, and we get a lot of the tourist traffic in town and residents in town and businesses in town, we pay quite a bit of the sales tax to benefit these county projects. Are you satisfied that there are enough projects that the county has on their list of projects that are in the city limits? Because I had talked to a few county people over the last weekend, and these people had indicated that there were some city projects on the list. What's your understanding of that? More? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, they're doing work with the, to me, the things that really benefit the city of Green Bay is the library project. It's the one at East Town Mall, and I believe the downtown one is getting some work. Obviously, they've put some money into the museum, which attracts people to downtown Green Bay. Having the coroner's office in Green Bay, I'm not seeing how that makes any difference to the city of Green Bay, whether it's here or in Bellevue or Alloway or Timbuktu. And expanding the jail, well, let's face it, when you start looking at numbers and the jail's filling up, they need more room for the jail. I don't know if that's necessarily based on what's happening in Green Bay or the surrounding communities who, as we've seen on the latest census, are growing, which means they're more of a share of people that might have to be incarcerated. So I don't think, again, that benefits Green Bay in any way. I don't think there were any road projects or park projects that were done in the city of Green Bay, as opposed to several of the other surrounding communities had road and park projects done. So I'm not asking, that it was fair or unfair or anything else like that. Look, we voted on it. I was in favor of it. think anything that helps the county is a good thing. I mean, I'm a member of the county. But as the county is getting close to ending the time frame that they had originally planned on for the half-cent sales tax, and now looks like they've approved it to be extended, I think it's time to start looking at the other communities, the surrounding communities, and say, we need to share some of this benefit with you. And have, like you said, a good chunk of the half-cent sales tax comes out of Green Bay. Not only residents, but tourism within the city of Green Bay. And I think it would definitely help us reduce some of our debt, get some more roads done without increasing that debt. All the things that Brown County has benefited from, and good for them. You know, the state law is there to, for just that purpose, to help reduce debt, to get projects done that need to get done without increasing that debt or increasing taxes. So I just think it's time, since they've decided to further it, that we have a discussion with them and see if they're open to it or not, or negotiate or whatever. But I mean, any dollars we can get back in here to help us out with, look at, biggest thing is roads, right? Even if they said you can only use it for roads, how much more could we do with that? How much debt could we reduce with that? Even if they said just roads, period. That would open a lot of doors for us to get a lot more done within this community.
Yeah, no, I like the idea. I think as we saw with ARPA, I mean, we thought we had a good process in ARPA, and then, some members said, hey, have we thought about this? Let's include that. So we kind of slowed down the ARPA process. So I think that if the county decision makers, see that Green Bay has some reservations and has some concerns and wants to make sure that our needs are being met when they outlay the dollars from the sales tax, I don't think that that's a harmful thing at all. Green Bay has 11 county supervisors. We used to have 12. So our voting presence on this county board has decreased over time. So Alder Galvin, if you wanted to make a motion, I'd be happy to support it.
Well, I make a motion then that we staff clean this up and we present it at council to, I guess, be further discussed and sent on to the county.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned a resolution. Is that what you're like?
Yes,
Obviously,
that's what I'm looking
resolutions are
for.
non-binding, but
Right.
Yeah.
Just something to let them know how we feel about this, and that
Sure.
we would like to at least start the discussion with them.
right. So I think your motion, if I hear it right, is to refer to staff to create language for a resolution to forward to the county board or
Correct.
county government. Okay, I'll second that. Alder Eck, you have your hand raised. You have a question, comment?
Yes, and I believe it was Director Ellen Becker that, in a meeting with her, that she was talking about how, and I don't know if it was the Brown County supervisors that voted on this or who it did, that to give the county a large portion of like the room tax and things like that. And I understand what Alder Galvin is meaning through this, and I just, I guess I wondered what the options were to try to get some of that, so that we aren't looking at like a long-term 0.5%, because it was short-term, right, to pay for something. I know they extended it, but I guess I just wanted some clarification on that particular piece as far as the room tax and things like that, that we're giving almost all of it to Brown County.
I can jump in here a little bit. They are completely different funding sources. Of course, one's a sales tax for anyone who spends their money in the Brown County. And then the room tax is also kind of really from tourism. And that would be any money that is spent at a hotel within your municipalities. There is a Brown County Room Tax Commission that collectively puts the majority of their room tax into a trust, and that helps pay for the KI Convention Center, the original portion of it. It helps pay for the Rush Center. Then it pays for the KI Convention expansion. And then now it will also help pay for the Rush Expo. So they're different funding sources. They have completed different documents that have been approved for the room tax. I'm not sure if that answers your question. I think they would have to be taken up as completely separate items, different funding sources.
Was that Brown County that voted on that, or City Council?
City Council had to vote on allowing and signing a document, and so did all the surrounding municipalities who are in that room tax commission. to allow the money, once all the money that is needed to pay off the Rush Center and the CAD Convention Center, to allow that the additional room tax then for future years to be used to help pay for the expo. So the county, the council did approve it, and ultimately, yes, the council approved, and the every other municipality approved those documents.
For an unlimited period of time?
It is not for unlimited period of time, but at this point, I do believe it goes out to 2052, because that is when the debt goes out for the expo.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for the clarification. I just was trying to see if we were able to work a different angle. So, because I know
Thank you.
we're gonna get the room tax either way. The room tax gets charged versus the 0.5%. I'm hoping that drops off, you know.
All right, thank you, Alder Eck. Alder Steuer, see you with your hand raised.
Thank you, Chair. I'm trying to, with this, I agree with Alder Galvin on this. I think it's a good point. I think when the county board voted recently to raise the 0.5% sales tax, my understanding was that there wasn't a whole lot of, maybe there was discussion, but as far as where this 0.5% would go, what projects, it seemed like they pushed the tax first and then everything else was kind of a wide open basket. So I definitely would like the city to explore that and see what ways we could benefit. So I think this resolution is a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, motion's on the floor and it's been second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose. Motion carries. All right, next item is for consideration with possible action, the resolution authorizing a budget amendment for fire overtime reimbursement of $41,174.75 for unbudgeted community events. Chief Litton, are you on, or Director Ellenbecker?
I can jump in to start with. Historically, you have seen a few of these in the past, and we typically bring them through at the end of the year. Recommendations for our auditor, we should bring them through a little more frequently. All of it, again, is something that was not in the budget. And in each one of these cases, these are some of the items that we don't typically budget for, because again, with a COVID year or for any other purpose, we don't know if the event's going to happen or not. If it does happen, then we have 100%, we reimburse and we bill back and we get reimbursement for 100% of our expenses. And I believe on the first one, they had examples of for the 41,000. Some of the things that ran in January through August was the Brown County Fire Investigation Task Force, Selcom Marathon, Packer 5K, Bell and Run, Lambeau Field soccer match, and then a UWGB basketball game. So these are some events that the fire department had created some overtime for one service or another, and we were able to reimburse, ask and get reimbursement for 100% of the overtime that was spent for these events. So again, we don't budget for them because they're really budget neutral or really fund balance neutral, because we incur additional overtime, but we bill 100% back. The problem is that it's considered a budget amendment. The reason why it's a budget amendment is if you look at, let's say, the budget on the overtime line, they have now incurred an extra $41,000 on their budget, on their overtime line, which if you're trying to look at their budget, one would say they're going to be 41,000 over, and then now they have to explain why. The problem is we have also gotten $41,000 of unbudgeted revenue in. So when we make a budget amendment, we make both of their budgets $41,000 higher, their expense side and the revenue side. So on a amended budget, they are now at budget because of this. So it's an amendment, and so because it amended the original budget that the council had taken action on, we have to put these resolutions through. You will see them a little more often going forward, just because recommendation was to be more timely with them and not bring them through at the very end of the year.
It comes out even, basically, but it has to be Director Ellenbecker, city staff. Okay, entertain a motion.
I would make a motion that, geez, how do we do that? If we could take all three items at the same time, 9, 10, and 11.
Motion to suspend the rules. I should
There you go.
probably
That was
read those. Yeah. Why don't you make that motion? I'll second that. Do you want to make a motion or?
Yeah,
suspend the rules?
motion to suspend the rules and take all three items as one.
Okay, I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I oppose, motion carries. Okay, now I'm just gonna quickly read the other two.
Sure.
Item 10 was for consideration with possible action, the resolution authorizing a budget amendment for fire overtime reimbursement of $3,932.50 for unbudgeted urban search and rescue training. Number 11 was for consideration with possible action, the resolution authorizing a, oh, wait a minute. Oh, the police is there too. Okay. Budget amendment for police medical expense of $6,325.05 for unbudgeted medical costs collected in municipal fines. So if you get I'll make a motion to approve all three.
I'll second it.
Second by Alder Galvin. Director Ellenbecker, do you just want to comment on that quickly? They're all kind of similar?
They are very similar. The second item, the only reason why it was very similar, the first item that the fire department created overtime, it just went to a different expense account line, so we have to do it as a separate item. That's the only reason why you're seeing that as a second item, a separate item. Third one is something that we are going to, in some cases, if they have to send, they incur some medical costs, if they had to take somebody in and maybe take them in for some kind of blood draw, at the time they're arresting somebody, we have incurred in costs, then we get to charge them back for those fees through the municipal fines. We are actually going to change this process for 2023. We typically hadn't been budgeting for it because we didn't know how much. Historically, we can see we spend around up to $10,000 a year on these type of medical costs. So in 2023, we're going to start budgeting around an average of what we've been incurring in the last several years on this. So we don't have to do this kind of budget amendment. If one year is an anomaly and we spend a lot more money, we might have to come back for a budget amendment. I see the chief is online if he wants to kind of explain maybe more what that is, but it's really, I think, some medical costs if and when, and then we're able to recoup it in a medical, in the municipal, in the fines.
These are blood draws for driving under the influence of alcohol arrests. We don't use breath testing. We use blood testing, which is more defensible in court. And then we recoup the costs apparently from billing defendants.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions, comments? Okay, we have a recognized motion to approve items 9 through 11. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Director Ellenbecker. Informational for discussion, the 2023 to 2027 capital improvement plan. This Director Ellenbecker, this year?
Yes, yes, we just threw extra 600 pages on your packet for for to look at. Well, it's time for us to start in fall here to start looking at this the CIP. This is a draft. This is where we're at this point. We did not expect us to be able to discuss and really take action on something that large when we first posted it on Friday. So it's really for the first pass for you to start looking at it. We certainly want to start talking about a schedule. Potentially, do we open up and start discussing this at the next finance committee meeting on 9/27, which would give us at least an additional 2 weeks to discuss it. The part of the timeline is to decide, do we want to try to take action on this before a budget is approved? Do we want to take them through at the same time, have really all of the pre-work done on this, looking at the CIP, look at the items that have been requested? Do we all feel that those are the necessary items? Are they in the right year? Is there some more discussion that's needed? At this point, what this will eventually lead into, if there's some items on there, whether or not we can get them in the operating budget, or if they just won't fit in the operating budget, that now become part of 2023 bonding. We're trying to get the two of them to flow through together. We haven't been successful prior to this, so we're trying to bring them through. So we don't have any history on how to do this. So again, we're just trying to get the process started. Maybe talk about a timeline tonight, or really we can really come back and talk about it more at the next meeting, and then see if we want to start reviewing. Again, large document. If there's any items on there you want to know more information prior to the meetings, we could certainly reach out to the department heads, and they could try to answer some of your questions or be prepared to talk about them at one of the next meetings.
Well, a lot of big items that, we had a big process last year, required extra work to trim down the number. I thought Chairperson Dorf did a wonderful job as chair of finance. So what I would recommend we do is just maybe make a motion to hold, because I'd really like to hear Alderman Johnson's as chair of the finance committee, his perspective. We have 5 new members of the city council, so I think that's a consideration too.
Mhm.
So that would be my preference. Any preference from the committee?
No, I would,
It is-
I'd get on board with that.
It is actually only informational, so I'm not even sure if
Oh.
what action we even have to
Okay.
take. We intentionally, I did not want people to actually try to approve this and move forward at this point with it. So it's only informational at this point.
Not at those dollar amounts.
Yeah.
All right, I'll speak to Alderman Johnson then, just to let him know what we discussed, but I think that'll be, so would it be a motion to receive and place on file, or?
You
no
know, I'm not
motion
really
at all?
sure at this point. Might even ask the attorney about it, but we certainly, even now, if we want to talk about it, do you think in 2 weeks is enough time to start bringing this back to the next finance committee meeting on 9/27 for some more additional discussion, like that I should put it back on the agenda? Or like you said, maybe we'll talk to Chair Johnson first and see how he wants to move forward with this.
Attorney Bungert, if you recommend a motion.
Yes. I'm sorry, I switched to a mobile connection, so just making sure you can hear me. You don't need to take an action on this item because it's not listed as an action item on the agenda. It's just for information purposes. So if the committee does want to give direction to staff to bring it back as an action item on a particular dated agenda, then you can give that direction, but it doesn't have to be voted on.
Okay, thank you, attorney. Thank you, director. I will speak to Alderman Johnson, and as long as the committee has no other questions or comments, we'll just let it be there. Let it sit
Alright.
there. Okay, item 2, 2022 contingency account, $184,297. Unobligated, $84,297. Questions, comments? Okay, next meeting will be held on Tuesday, the 27th. Motion to adjourn, anyone?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alder Galvin, second by Alder Hutchinson. Before we adjourn, I just want to thank everyone for their patience with me. It's nice to be here. I didn't feel right not attending the Personnel Committee, but thanks for your patience and understanding. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, motion carries. All right, have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.